Welcome back to the Morning Brew with the Homeowners. I'm your host, Dmitry Lipinski. I have two hosts in the studio with me today, Dave Carroll from Dope Marketing and Sam Cook, local public adjusters from Minneapolis. Today's topic is everything Charlie Kirk. Obviously, the whole country is talking about it. Unfortunately, it did affect a lot of businesses and how we do business with each other. So, angle of the show to be exactly that. And we're going to start with the negative reviews for contractors over Kirk post. Quite a few contractors thought this week that it was a good idea to go out and celebrate his death and say not very smart things about the incident, the assassinations. And as a result, a lot of them start getting reviews. I talked to the contractor from California today, and he told me the story. He's in San Diego. He said local electrician got 3,000 one-star reviews because his wife, who's also, I guess, in the business, said something online. She was very happy that Charlie Kirk got killed. So a lot of people defending this business owner, saying that the reviews are not legit, they're fake reviews. A lot of people say they're deserved. You should not be celebrating someone's death. What do you guys think?
Sadly, we live in a cancel culture. Like the ability now with everyone being a newscaster with their phone or being able to share their opinion or even get justified by their opinion by people all over the country that have never met you, like engaging, giving you that positive reinforcement of your belief. Sadly, it's the world we live in.
But is it a cancel culture? Because a lot of people who are doing it, they say we have to make it them accountable for their words. We want people to know that what they do has circumstances. If you go public offend 1,000, 2,000 people and it hits home, like people gonna act any way they can. They cannot come and meet you, so they want to be heard. They want to send you a message, and the reviews, unfortunately, is how they do it. Adam, what do you, oh, I did not introduce you, Adam. Adam Sand from Canada is also with us today via
Thank
Zoom.
you. I yeah, I mean my take on this, like I'm not from the States. I'm from Canada, but I spent several years traveling the country, and what I found is that I fell in love with the American culture and the American dynamism, but I also found that there is this equal and opposite reactive force that I label as evil. Other people will label it differently, but there's people who would rather throw rocks at the top of a building than try and fix the elevator. And it's causes this situation where, yeah, people want to use their voice to negatively impact people in positions of power. So I try and reverse the circumstances. When I owned a roofing company and one of my guys didn't wear a mask and walked into Home Depot, did I feel it was unfair when people left one-star Google reviews on my roofing company because one of my guys didn't wear a mask at Home Depot? Yeah, I felt it was unfair. But I also think that there's a bigger there's bigger circumstances at stake right now than COVID. And again, some people would say that COVID was a major thing, but I think that there's forces of good and evil in this world, and I think that you're seeing with this we really saw a rise up against evil. Cheering death is a lot different than the debate over public policy around, pandemic mitigation. And I personally feel it's justified because people are what it did was it directed a lot of anger in a direction that was at least safe. You know what I mean? I think that when you brought up what you brought up with Marquise, you a lot of people who were very, very angry and very, very hurt, they didn't turn to the streets, they didn't riot, they left some bad Google reviews. And I think you almost channeled a lot of energy in a direction that didn't that like from a lot of people in our industry who are like a lot of Second Amendment guys, right? Like if anything, you channeled that energy in a direction that potentially saved things from getting worse. And I think that that's a part of the story that is important is where are people choosing to channel their anger? They chose to channel it in a place that was safe.
And also think about time in history. Like if that would happen 100 years ago, you literally would have drive-bys with a shooting where people would be throwing rocks at your building. They would physically try to destroy your business. Now you're getting one-star reviews. So I think it's pretty safe to be, to say that it hurts, it sucks. Also, we have another problem with it. Like a lot of businesses with similar names are getting those 1-star reviews, and that's a branding question. I have a customer in Texas with the Aspen name, and there's another Aspen roofing company in Florida always been getting 1-star reviews, and sometimes Aspen and Houston can get them. And I told them, guys, pick up a better name. That's why branding matters. You will get that friendly fires, right? But one thing I want to say, it's not fake review. People say fake reviews is when you buy reviews and when you don't have experience. People use reviews like comments on Facebook. It's just, I want to be heard. And Google will remove most of them because they come in bulk. Google can see what they're for. Like they see that it's about Charlie, and it's, there's no way business gets like 3,000 reviews overnight and they're all from, there's a reason behind it. So Google will remove them, but the business will hurt.
Yeah, here's my view for a lot of the people that are going and post these negative reviews. Is like, if you're going to go do that in the companies that you disagree with, you better be doing the same for companies you do agree with, right? Don't just downvote ones, right? If you're just filling the internet with a ton of negative reviews, that'll do one thing. But why don't you go out and post a ton of good reviews for the companies you do agree with, right? Why? And so for me, it just shows that the people that are doing this, right, they're trying to get their anger out. They're trying to get their frustration. But to your point of throwing bricks rather than solving the problem, if you're only going to do the one side where you're complaining and bashing people down, well, you're not lifting anyone else up in turn. You're not really doing any benefit with it.
I also will add this. This is not the first time it's happening. It's one of the categories, like people just don't understand it. When you mock him to death, like Logan Paul years ago have the same situation where he traveled to Japan and he did a selfie video with a suicidal person. He got canceled. He lost millions of followers and it was years in recovery for him. You have to show humility. Like nobody gonna do business with people who don't care about person who just got killed. So there's like deep psychological element to it why it's happening. You can't just say, oh, it's a fake review. It's a fake review, but it's a deep emotion. You hurt someone deeply. Think about that family. Think about, if my brother would got killed and now you go on and celebrating it, you're offending me. Everybody who stays behind. Dave, what do you think?
It's one of the ways for people to get their voice out now. I think with a 1-star review just in general, what's your intention? You're trying to negatively affect the business. Share your experience, but make sure that for the pain you went through, like at that moment you chose violence and you're like, I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through. And I think when you look at like, for a business owner, for the intention to be to affect them negatively, they said something I don't like, I'm going to go on and I'm going to share my opinion about how I feel about that in their business. I do think there's two sides of it. There's like, this is how those people can be heard. They have their opinion. Maybe other people that feel like them don't know, and that's their avenue to do it. But then to the post about Marquise, it's like, I don't know if you guys got your popcorn out. I was reading that stuff. And it was just like, it was wild to see. Well, you guys were talking, I was thinking about like, Adam, you brought up COVID. Like, when was the last time something like this happened? Not something tragic, sadly in the world we live in, tragedy happens. But it's like an instance where you saw this level of the aggression. So when was the last time there was news stories about people's wives posting and it was getting canceled, or these things that you're seeing? I feel like all of us have to take a little bit of accountability of just like, the world is in a rocky place right now. And I think a lot of us, especially in the communities that we're talking about, like home service, local businesses, we've grown together, we're tied together, we see this stuff together. And I just was thinking, like, Adam, when you brought up COVID, like, when was the last time that an event like this happened and there was this much, the tension, the boiling point, the spewing over, however you want to put it? Like, I can't remember.
It shows the temperature in society.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to finish this segment with this. It's not often what you say, it's the damage control that you do after. And so Marcus Mitchell in the roofing industry, what he did, he published apology literally with the ChatGPT. Like, if you want to show me how you have no humility, that's like the worst thing you can do. You can make a video, you can show people, hey, I was wrong. Like, let me hear you speak. Like, you're not the last person who made a mistake and said something stupid, but how you react to it, how you explain yourself does matter. Logan Paul came back. A lot of people comes back from it, even worse stuff, but you have to show humility, that you're truly sorry. You have to show the regret, and you have to think how other people looked at it, not just playing a victim and that people are canceling you. When we come back after the break, we will talk about all the people who got fired over comments on Charlie Kirk's association. Don't go anywhere. And we are back, continuing conversation what happened last week in business world over Charlie Kirk. People fired over comments on Charlie Kirk. I've heard few stories. I've seen very telling clip from Office Max. These people came to the Office Max and they wanted to print his image for the prayer group, and employee says, nope, it's political, we're not going to print it. And of course, Office Max made a statement later that they did investigation and they fired those people. And we've seen quite a few people, at least 8 companies fired, big companies fired people over comments on Charlie. Adam, in Canada, do you see any after effect in the business world like that?
Absolutely. We don't have the free speech laws that you have, so they can debank you. Like the government can debank you for your opinions. We had a protest in Canada called the trucker protest, and it was the most Canadian protest ever. Bouncy castles, face painting, Tim Hortons coffee and donuts, trucks literally just parking outside Parliament. Not no J6 storming the gates, just face painting and bouncy castles. And truckers had like their dogs killed, their trucks impounded, and they were debanked and lost their trucking licenses for literally just parking on the street. And so you have way worse effects for something like that here. It's absolutely a thing. In America, you have the protection of free speech, but you also have, like, companies are just doing damage control. That's really all they're doing. They're just trying to like stem the mob by appeasing the mob. Is it fair? And is it a violation of your free speech? Like, you have the entitlement to pursue happiness. A company is choosing to misalign themselves with the words that you said, potentially causing them damage. I don't think that you get protection to keep your employment with free speech. I just think you get, like, if you're gonna say something stupid about a guy who got shot for the words that he said, don't complain about losing your job for the things that you said. You know what I mean? Like,
that should be the headline right there.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. Well, that's what people don't understand about freedom of speech in the United States. It protects only, like, you can speak about government, but if I don't want to do business with you for any reason, like my lawyer told me years ago, Dmitry, they can fire you if they don't like the color of your eyes. There's nothing you can do about it. If I don't like you, if you're not welcome here, you call the police and say, hey, he's trespassing, it's my property. If I'm a hotel owner and I don't want to do business with you, I ask you to leave, restaurant, wherever. People don't understand it, that you can be removed and nobody can force you. I remember Angie's List kick me out of, like, we have 720 reviews, and I call my lawyers, like, can they do it? It's like, unfortunately they can. They don't have to do business with you. I'm like, I have 720 reviews. And that's where I learned the lesson about freedom of speech, and there's, nobody can make people do business with you. So if you are, employed by a big organization and they fire you because what you said, because you're, not politically correct, whatever the reason is, they can.
So Fox News shared the list of a few employers that had fired people over what they had posted. It was the NASDAQ, Office Max, the Joe Burrow Foundation, MSNBC, the Caroline Panthers, and then West Ada Schools. But NASDAQ, Fox News shared their post on X, and NASDAQ posted, NASDAQ has a zero tolerance policy towards violence and any commentary that condones or celebrates violence. This comes back to when you sign on with an employer, you do agree with that employer. Hey, I'm going to follow your guidelines. I'm going to follow your expectations, right? It's a mutual thing. I'll work for you. You'll employ me. Yep. I'll follow these terms. I'll do my job, right? Yep. And so when you do sign something that just says they have zero tolerance policy towards any kind of violence and celebrating it, well, yes, if you celebrate violence, you're in clear violation.
You know what I hated the most this week? Have you seen TMZ story? So it's a trend. What people do on TikTok and Instagram and everywhere else, they go and they find a person who's celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and they would message the hotel, the school, the hospital where that person employs like, hey, look what he's doing, and they make him fire essentially. Well, TMZ during live event, so it was a live broadcasting, when they announced that he got shot, people in the back room was celebrating. They were like screaming. So it was a police chase video, but during the police chase video, the audio was the Charlie Kirk is dead, and they start celebrating. And TMZ got under fire, and they said, nope, they were celebrating the car chase. And so people are boycotting them, say, if you don't fire them, we're going to cancel you, because they came forward and say, we know those people, they would never celebrate. But people are not stupid. They all have heard it. So now it's a big movement on social media against TMZ, demanding to fire those people who are celebrated during
They were
life.
trying to pull off the whole "Let's go Brandon" chant all over again, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it comes down to, is like both sides have such an echo chamber, especially with social media. That's the one thing no one remembers, especially as ones posting the stuff, is like they feel so justified because everything their feed and everyone around them is just an echo chamber telling them you're right, you're right, you're right. And they can't stop and comprehend that there's another side to it, right? And I think one side does a better job of understanding that than the other side, but they're all reassured in their actions, right? It's this mob mentality, and I think that's where you get this people doing things that they probably wouldn't do if they didn't have it.
Dave, you've been thinking a lot. What are you thinking?
I go back to like what's the age-old saying? Like, when you're at the bar, you don't talk about religion and you don't talk about politics. And I think especially if you're a business owner, this falls into this part of the conversation. If you're an employee of an employer, it's like you just have certain responsibilities. And I think a lot of times for our generations that grew up with this social media at our fingertips, or the Facebook groups, or the online forums and all that stuff, I just think a lot of times we don't take accountability for the reaction we're trying to get. And so as an employer, I was reading through those same articles of, like, the MSNBC and the Carolina Panthers. There was even a restaurant here in Minneapolis that put a sign up in the back room that was like, if you have anything negative to say about people dying, you should just leave. And it's like, as a business owner, you get to have like your company culture, your voice, kind of like the environment that you have, because that's one of the parts of the American dream, right? Like, you can create your own way. What do they call it? The path to happiness. What's it called?
Pursuit of happiness?
Pursuit of happiness. Yeah, it's like, I don't think a lot of times that as employee, so like I have a couple businesses. One of them has over 100 employees. If I look at myself as a business owner, do I expect my employees to think about everything they post on the internet in their spare time, where their job could be at risk about it? Like, as an owner, I don't think like that. Now, it's difficult because it is such a sensitive subject. Mm-hmm. And I think that we should all, just as humans, take the responsibility. Like, if I put something into the universe, I'm taking responsibility about what comes back for it. I don't think that's always where our head goes.
I think a lot of people kind of disassociate with business, right? They think of business as this imaginary figure. It's not humans, but at the end of the day, businesses are humans, right? We're all business owners. We all have our business. And so a lot of people don't take that and go, oh, if I was friends with you and I disagree with you on a political view about something this sharp, I might step back and go, I don't know if we should be friends anymore. Mm-hmm. In business, it's no different, right? I might be in business with you and be like, this is great. But if we have a difference in views, you have that right to go, you know what? I don't want to do business with you either. And so it's this, they take it to this, it's corporate America. It's this business that's doing all these criminal things. They're firing people. It's that business, right? They don't realize it's humans, right? There's humans all throughout there. They have their own views. They're allowed to say they don't want to associate with people on the other side.
I also would say it's not politics. What happened to Charlie is, daylight killing. Someone got killed, father of two, and he was also peacefully debating people who oppose him. So, a lot of people say, well, it's political views. It's not. It's inhumane. Like, we're not. So if my enemy dies tomorrow, I don't go dance on his grave. Like, you still have to mourn. You still have to send condolences. Like, you can't just celebrate someone's death.
But when you go to the controversy right now and you look at the very outspoken both sides of this, isn't a lot of it politically influenced because of the beliefs around what Charlie was sharing? I mean, I even go back to the roofing conference a bunch of us were just at.
Yep.
There were vendors backing out from being sponsors because Charlie was there.
Exactly.
And the feedback that I heard, it was completely political. He has a stance that we don't believe in, so we're not going to support a show and pay. Whether every dollar we give goes to him or not, we won't support it.
I agree. Adam, where are you at?
Well, he was a political person. His whole mission was to go to university campuses, which is supposed to be the melting pot of ideas, which typically his political and social views were, like for whatever reason, 91% of college professors vote, Democrat. So he went into unfriendly territory, let's say, challenged current views and created a voice on the other side. And yes, a lot of those things are political, but some of them were also faith-based and some of it was just social, social constructs around gender and whatnot. And so the problem is that, he represented something that needed a voice, and he engaged the youth in politics, and people are very protective over the youth. And when you've lived in a media echo chamber and a social media echo chamber for, at least about half a decade at least, he was unfairly vilified. A lot of the things that he said had just been completely incorrect or taken out of context. And so I think that he was a champion for talking about it. And so I understand the initial reaction from both sides is a lot of like taking jabs at each other online. And I'd much rather be online than in the real world. You know what I mean? Like, I know that some of that is also happening. And what I'm just praying for is that his legacy of talking is what comes through. And that's what happens, is that we use this as an opportunity to converse. And there's a university professor who did that. He brought all his students in and they had a lot of conversations, and he challenged a lot of views, not because he took a stance one way or the other, but just forced everybody to challenge their views. And I hope that for the sake of, the American culture, that everybody does what we're doing here, which is put their voice out, have conversation, and be willing to have meaningful debate and discussion around things and get to the root facts of the issue. Like, what is the predictably valid truth at the root of the matter?
Love it. We're at the end of the segment. When we come back after the break, we will discuss, should all contractors and business owners honor Charlie Kirk, and what happens when they don't, or should they? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we are back, probably discussing one of the hardest topics on this show so far. Been doing it for like 6 months and never talked politics, but could not avoid it today. So next question is, should all contractors and business owners honor Charlie Kirk? The main questions I have: what are the risks of honoring or not honoring Charlie Kirk? Should businesses and politics be separate? I actually want to share this. Today I've lost a customer because of it. So I took my stand. I called out someone publicly because he was celebrating the death, and I said, this is not cool, this is not what we do. I have underlayment, roofing underlayment business, and what I did is I also talked to my team and say, hey, let's do the badge with a quote of Charlie Kirk, and if someone wants to buy it to honor, like, it's not for everyone, but let's just see if there's a demand for it. If someone would buy, people buy shirts, people buy apparels like that. And someone messaged us, a regular customer said, I will not be doing business with you because of it. So I actually made a statement. I said, listen, I get it. I cannot please everyone. I told people where I stand. I don't think I was far right or far left or whatever. Just as a business, I think sometimes you have to, as a leader, you have to share your position. And I'm not afraid of doing that. But the question to you guys, should all businesses honor Charlie Kirk?
No. I think that's your choice.
That's your choice?
Yeah, I think that in one of the previous segments, I was trying to reflect on when was the last time something like this happened, and it hit me during the break. It was the last election. If you'd see people get into it with their families about their stance or an image they would post, and people are getting blocked and banned and canceled. And I'd always look at business owners that would be overtly like out there with their political opinion. And personally, I just didn't agree with it because I'm like, half the people aren't going to want to do business with you. If you just kept your mouth closed, you could service everyone. You didn't open your business to be a politician. And I kind of put this in the bucket. Like, if you feel strongly enough about anything and you want to share it, go share it with the world. But if it's like you're trying to get a reaction or you're trying to maybe get some negative attention or something like that, I don't think all businesses should be required to share their opinion about anything, because sometimes the power is in the silence.
I agree with that. And to your point, when you asked last time something like this happened, it's actually been ongoing. It's continuous, right? First we had COVID, then it was mask or no mask, then it was should there be vaccines or not vaccines, then there's Ukraine, then there's Palestine, then there's like you said, the election. It's like I can think of every 3 months there's actually a new thing where it tears family apart, and it's like pick a side, pick a stance, and that's where you're stuck. But ultimately, when you joked earlier a little bit about when you're at the bar, don't talk about politics and talk about religion. It's the same thing in business. You don't need to talk about it. It doesn't need to be a point of discussion, right? We have a million things going on in our country. You don't need to stop and make a stance on everything. You don't need to say, this is my company's view. Once again, a company is a combination of people, especially when you get in these larger businesses. It's an entire board. You think the entire board sides with the same thing?
100%.
Right? And so I don't think businesses need to pick a side. I think a business is an organization of multiple people and multiple views, and that's what makes this country great. It's supposed to be a melting pot. We're supposed to have people that have been here. We're supposed to have immigrants. We're supposed to have one religion, another religion, right? And the second you say you need to pick a side, all you're saying is we need to divide. And, divided house can't stand, right? It goes back for a long time for reasons. All it is, that only benefits one person, right? And that's the government. The government's the only one benefits from us being divided. And not to get all, crazy political on it, but it's like you got to stop and just look at people and go, hey, we have different views. Cool. We don't need to share them. We don't need to talk about them. Like you said, at the bar, you don't need to talk about it. It doesn't need to be part of Christmas.
Yeah.
Is an interesting question of should a business, right? I think that the reason a company exists is, yes, to one, take care of the courageous founder, but two, to be a vehicle for people who contribute to that organization to accomplish their personal, professional, and financial goals. So it bears the great responsibility as a leader to make sure that you're aligned with, yes, taking care of the personal, professional, and financial goals of the people who work there. But a business is a representation of who you are and what you stand for in this world. And so in some cases, coming down to the issue of should, it's more like, do you feel like your business needs to be a voice for what you believe in and benefits from, do you benefit from trying to create the world that you want to live in, and are you willing to take that risk, to kind of what Dave said, right? You're choosing to, yes, potentially alienate 49 or 51% of the general public these days, and you would only take that risk not only on yourself, but on the people that you're responsible for, that work for you, that help you accomplish your mission. You choose to take that risk only because, well, two reasons. One, you feel like the virality and attention is good for your business, or two, you feel like you're creating a better world to live in. I would venture to say that more people make the mistake of falling into the first category of, they think the virality will be good for their business. And in those cases, I would say, no, you shouldn't voice your political opinions because you're not prepared for the sacrifice and the risk that you're imposing on your people. But if you're doing it because you legitimately, in your core values and your core beliefs, feel that you are doing it because you're trying to create a better world to live in, and you're trying to let people know where you stand and use your platform of your business to elevate a thought into society because of the credibility you've earned as a successful brand, then yes, I think you should, all right? But again, it comes down to choice. You have the freedom of speech, and it's not up to me or you or anybody to tell anybody else what they should say or what opinion they should take. If you want to take no stance and be Switzerland as a public entity and represent your opinions privately in your own community, your church, your friends, your family, then that's what you should do. It's not up to us to decide. But we get to vote with our wallets when we decide who to do business with. And I like to do business with people who I know some of their opinions.
There's one thing you brought up there, which is like knowing your audience. Like, hey, half the people are going to be upset, right? We keep alluding this half thing, but it's really not half. Especially in business, you typically are catering towards a specific audience. When you're working with contractors, the vast majority of contractors are going to lean right. They're going to be conservative, right? We know that anything trades leans that way. No different, Adam, how you mentioned 91% of college professors vote left, right? And so it's you have to know your audience, because if you're a school supplies manufacturer, and and you're selling stuff to colleges and you say something that leans right, well, guess what? 91% of your customers are going to be voting against you. So it's, you can't just look at like, well, hey, if I say this, it might lose half. Like, know your audience, but also recognize the echo chamber, right? I agree when you should and shouldn't say it. I agree with a lot of Adam's points there, but you also have to stop. Your business's responsibility is to give your employees a job, take care of people, sustain yourself as a business. If you're going to say something that's going to go against 90% of your clients, maybe just shut up. You're going to hurt a lot more people than what making that stance might be worth.
I want to challenge you guys. I want to bring 4 events here. 9/11, assassination of Trump or attempt, killing of Ukrainian girl on a bus, and now Clark. I think it's all about categories. And is it just evil act, or is it actually terrorism, right? Because wrong is wrong. And the whole thing about Charlie Kirk, or like, let's say you vote for Biden or Kamala, but now Trump is getting killed. No matter who you vote for, we all should agree that nobody should be killed for running for the president.
Correct.
Charlie Kirk should not be killed for debating students, right? Like, he's been violated. That girl on the bus been violated. The 9/11, it was act of terrorism. People were violated. I think there's a general rule for good versus bad, evil versus right. And when we fail to recognize that this is not normal, the people should not be killed, whether it's a police brutality or whatever, when you stop calling evil evil, that's where we fall as society. And I feel like some business owners just think about sales and dollars and how to survive, which I get, you should, like, your health of your business is important. But I feel like if you look at a girl killed on Ukraine and say, well, I'm not going to comment on it, well, how can't you? That's a pure evil. And if you're not going to say something today, well, tomorrow it'll be in your town. Tomorrow it can come to your organization and your business, and how you're going to deal with it then. So I think, like, as a society, as a leaders, as a business owners, we all have to call evil evil. And not politicize it.
I would say this comes back to the echo chamber, though, right? Like, we have this view that there is one half of people that are coming out and saying he deserved to die, right? We think half the people, but really it's the squeaky wheel, right?
Yeah.
It's probably 1% of 1% on that one half that's actually thinking, right? I have a feeling we can go to, let's go to Walmart right now, interview 200 people, and I guarantee 200 are going to say, he shouldn't have died, left or right. It wouldn't matter, right? And so I think it's this where we're giving a platform almost just as badly anytime
to a
that
very small minority.
Yeah, we're giving them the volume by making it this big news story, making and talking about stuff like, oh yeah, well, they got fired and they said this and they said that. It's like, at a certain point, I'm pretty confident 99.99999% of Americans are going to go, no one should ever be killed for anything, right?
So does it mean that, in your opinion, business owners should honor?
I like to think that if everyone is on the same page agreeing that someone shouldn't die, and I could be wrong, it could be completely the other way, right? But it's, at a certain point, as a business owner, you have a fiduciary responsibility, right? As a business owner, you go into it saying, I'm going to employ people, I'm going to offer this, I'm going to do that. You need to take a step back from not only your views, but also your ego, and just go, how is this going to affect other people's lives, right? I'd say, yeah, I want to make stance. I think business owners should use their platform at times, but there's also times where it can create backlash that's going to negatively affect people, right? I'm confident to say that.
Sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to do that. It's more like in the definition of, like, is it honoring Charlie Kirk, or is it, saying that there's no place for political violence, that he shouldn't die, that we should not be moved. Like, is it the honoring the dead versus the act itself that you want to speak out against, right? Like, so it's like, should business owners use their platform to influence people to say, hey, take down the temperature, return back to talking, we shouldn't be killing people? Yes. And me personally, I believe that Charlie Kirk should be lifted up on a mantle and be made a martyr, because I believe that I want his movement to gain momentum as a result. As a Christian, as a father, I want to see that. But it's like the honoring the dead versus the you know, speaking out against the act, right? Absolutely 100% should speak out against the act, but it's the person.
That's a great way to put it, right? There's two different debates going on, and they're parallel. They're not the same thing.
Agreed. When we come back, we have one more angle to look at it. We're gonna look at the sports teams, because what happened at our stadiums also were storytelling. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we are back with our last segment today. Heavy topic, Charlie Kirk. Last question: should sports teams honor Charlie? So we have a point made by Sam here that it's a minority who makes the comments celebrating. Well, if you're owner of the stadium and you have 50,000 people come to the game, if it's true that it's minority, something is telling me that the right decision is, to honor, to recognize, because majority of the people, whether it's president, whether it's 9/11, that's what we do as a country. When everybody's thinking about something and you just do not show humility towards it, you're going to be canceled, you're going to be called out. So 5 teams, NFL teams, did not honor Charlie Kirk. Everybody else did. And those 5 teams are under fire. Dave, what do you think?
I was thinking about during the last segment when you guys were talking about this, like, where do you not draw the line, but because it's publicized, does it become your responsibility depending on the level of organization you are? Sadly, terrible things happen every day.
Yep.
And if you didn't open your business as a news media channel, where is the line drawn on terrible things, the school shootings, the things that happen every day in our country? When we talk about the responsibility or the should, something as public as an NFL team, and that could go down to like, what state is it in? Where does that lean? Where are the owners from there? Is it a different thing? Where my mind goes is like, it's a little bit different. None of us own an NFL team.
Yep.
But when we think about our platform as a business owner, and Sam, you had said this earlier, like a business is still, just however big it gets, like a group of individuals with different thoughts, with different morals, with different beliefs. My belief is that business owners should stand against like people being killed for no reason. Mm-hmm. But then does that mean that every single time that happens, it's your responsibility as a business owner to like show that? And then what does that do to the messaging of your business?
I have an answer. Like, this is how I answer. I think that every business is a media company, every single one of us. And I saw this TikTok other day. The woman says, like, our pastor did not talk about Charlie Kirk and we're looking for a new church. Here's the take. If you run a church, if you run a big organization, if you school teacher, right, you have to be sensitive to what's on people's mind. If something horrible happened yesterday and you just blatantly don't recognize it, like, you're a bad teacher, you're the bad pastor, you're the bad business owners. You don't have to do much. You don't have to lead with it, but you have to recognize. All we're asking here, and I think what people are asking about these NFL teams, just recognize it. Where it's not hard, 10, 20 seconds, just put something on the screen. I mean, you're recognizing all the brands that pay, Coke and Pepsi and,
Sure.
500 other things like LGBT community and like everything else. But why not recognize something that everybody is thinking about it? Now, like, do you remember Black Lives Matter movement? Even if it doesn't affect me, but it's still happening in a society. You go in, I go to the gym and I see flags like LGBT, like Black Lives Matter. It doesn't affect me. Like, okay, it's important for this community. I have, I'm not gonna throw a feast to my gym owners like, hey, why the flag is there? Because it's important to people in this community.
I do want to separate some you said there. You're like, well, if you're a teacher or a pastor and you don't talk about it, that's bad. If you go to, so businesses should, right? You kind of shifted between them. But I think it's kind of separate, right? When I go to church, go to a pastor, go to a teacher, I'm asking, like, I want to learn from you, right? Give me your insights. I'm coming to you for your opinion, right? Sure. When I watch the news, I go to the news organization looking for their opinion. When I have my trash company pick up my trash can on Tuesday, I couldn't give less flying craps about their opinion, right?
What bumper sticker they have on their garbage truck.
Exactly, right. I'm not going to them for that, right? So I think there are different businesses. When I go to, listening to this even, it's
What
like,
about NFL? What about baseball game?
so that's entertainment, right? I'm going to them for entertainment. I think it's the same thing. I think it gets politicized because it's so big. But no, if I go to a baseball game, I'm not going there to get some speech about what they think is right or what the organization, because just the same as I might agree with them, I might also disagree with them, right? And so it's same thing. If I go to a baseball game, I'm there to watch baseball, right? Not everything needs to be as publicized. So I agree every company is a media company, right? You should make media, but relevant to who you are and what you do, right? I don't think hear me out, and a lot of people won't agree with this, but like roofers probably don't need to share this type of information, what their stance is on a lot of it, because I'm not going to my roofer as a normal person.
Is that because of like the business's revenue? Is that the size? Because as we're talking, where my mind goes is like, you probably do have a level of responsibility to acknowledge what's going on in the country if you are a national organization, if you're a publicized organization. But again, like, that's our opinion. There might be someone, Dimitri, who doesn't think that the school or the priest talking about it.
I think it's also personal choice. Like, I remember when Chick-fil-A owners went and said, like, marriage is between a woman and a man, right?
Sure.
And they have rights on their parking lot. Sometimes it's a choice. Sometimes you make a statement where you stand on. You can't please everyone. We actually visited a company in Lake Ozark last year, black and white roofing company, and they were so pro-Trump. They said, like, if you don't vote for Trump, we don't want to hear business. Like, it's their marketing, and there's like, they know their target audience. They don't care about anything else. They lead with it. I think it's a choice of the business owner. When you know your audience and you know what you stand for, like, just go for it.
Authenticity.
I would say if you are authentic, that's a good way to put it, right? If you're a business and you owner and you are that, you're like, this is ride or die. I care about this. He's the guy who talks about it at the bar and at church and at the baseball games, right? That person, it's like, if you're that vocal person, be that person. But if you're a business owner that's not that person, don't be that person, right? Don't force a business or force your business to be something you're not, right? It's an extension of you in many ways. So, it should align with that.
Here's what I personally think, and this is back to our first story with Marcus Mitchell. I think we respect people on both ends. Like, if I'm pro something or against something, we respect both sides. At least I have a passion. Yeah. Nobody respects weak person, weak position, or no position. When you're trying to sit on two chairs, when you today I'm a Democrat, tomorrow I'm a Republican, tomorrow, we see a lot of people in Hollywood like that. They're like switch chairs. We hate it. Like, right? Stand up for something, whether you're an actor and we've seen it. We've seen when actors go and start promoting their candidates and then their candidate loses and then now they have to survive on their new, right? Like, we hate it. Like, I think you lose more when you don't have balls to stand or something. Adam, what do you have?
Well, here's what I think people who oppose our thoughts might say. Do you remember the name of the senator that was shot in Minnesota just a few months ago?
Yes.
Remember the name?
I don't remember the name. It was not a senator. It was a local
state representative or something. Not a governor, but like a legislator. Yeah. Her name was Melissa Hortman, right? And I only know this because it came up again when this whole thing happened, because people are like, oh, why aren't people honoring her? I think that, sports teams specifically, they celebrate heroics, right? Heroes, marvels of human accomplishment at the top level of their game. And it comes back to that should and that the honor the Charlie Kirk part. And with the sports teams, I believe that the people are looking for, like, why do we have entertainment, right? It's a break from the reality of the world to watch these heroes do these incredible feats of physical ability. And I think that if you're in the entertainment business, and by and large, this is a tragedy for a person who had done had incredible accomplishments, whether you agree with what he says or you even know what he says and you actually have an educated opinion, he accomplished something great. He's an American icon. And so in this whole like freedom of speech and should and the honoring the dead versus the not condoning the violence, I kind of lean a little bit more with Dimitri on this, in that the sports team should recognize a tragedy surrounding an American icon, but then it comes like, what's the line, right? Because this is Melissa Hortman, she's a Democratic legislator, and I think that the line is like, not as many people across the country knew who that was, but we also have to put our own personal biases in place here, and that personal bias is that Me personally, as some guy talking on a radio show, I personally would like them to, because that's the good that I want to see in the world. I believe that we're truly in a good versus evil, fourth turning Thucydides trap, Ray Dalio's changing world order time in history. And like you said, we want to see strong people who are willing to at least be convicted in their opinion. So should they do it? Only if it's genuine. But if they are genuine in believing that this hero accomplished a great thing and had a message that the world needs to hear, then they should go beyond just honoring him at a football game, but they should be trying to champion that message forward and creating the world that we want to live in. Because even Gandhi said that, right? Be the world that you want to live in. He said it better, more eloquently than that, but
Yeah. Be the change.
be the change that you want to see in the world, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, I want to see my side of the beliefs stop being quiet and stop being so pacifist. But again, that's not me imposing my will on their right to have free speech and freedom of opinion. But my personal vote, for how I vote with my wallet, how I vote with my attention, how I vote with my loyalty in terms of whether we brand loyalty or anything like that, I personally think they should, because I want to see that in the world, because I see a lot of people with very niche opinions being disproportionately loud.
Love it. I'm gonna finish with this, guys. I know it was a very heavy episode, but I'll finish with something only immigrant can say. With all of this, what I love that you still guys have freedom of speech. In Russia, 2 years ago, Putin's opponent got killed in prison. And in Russia, if you talk about it, you go to prison. If they find something in your phone that you follow, subscribe to his channel or donate to his organization, you go to jail. He didn't do nothing wrong. He was just number one candidate who was not Putin, and you cannot talk about it. In this country, even if in complete opposition, we can talk about it. We can have different opinions. That's what I love about the country. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. We'll see you next Saturday. Thank you.